we've got an opinion commentary piece from the Wall Street Journal. Now, keep in mind, the Wall Street Journal has a readership of people that consume the Wall Street Journal across all political lines, okay? And the Wall Street Journal in this article is calling, or at least saying out loud, that maybe Caitlin Clark's civil rights are actually being violated.
The Wall Street Journal just lit a fire the WNBA can't ignore. In a stunning opinion piece, the Journal is now questioning whether Caitlin Clark's treatment in the league might actually be a violation of her federal civil rights. Not just bad sportsmanship or unfair play, but potentially illegal behavior. Let that sink in. We're no longer just talking about hard fouls or media drama. We're talking about federal investigations, lawsuits, and possibly even congressional hearings that could shake the very foundation of the WNBA. The article, written by Sean McLean, doesn't pull any punches. He argues the WNBA has cultivated a hostile work environment for Clark and suggests that league officials have turned a blind eye to the relentless targeting she's faced since entering the league. And when the Wall Street Journal, a paper read by lawmakers, CEOs, and legal experts, starts throwing around words like civil rights violations, you know it's bigger than basketball now. So here's the question: has the WNBA crossed the line from tough competition into something far more dangerous? Because if McLean is right, this isn't just a PR crisis. It's a legal one that could bring the entire league to its knees.
Everybody's bragging about this 5-game winning streak. It is great. But Caitlin Clark doesn't get to play under these circumstances, where these girls are just going out there and playing basketball. That doesn't get to happen for her.
Let's unpack what this really means. This isn't some random blog whining about hard fouls. This is a major outlet calling for federal intervention. They're mentioning the Department of Justice, Congress, and even potential antitrust violations. That's the kind of language that makes league commissioners panic, and could force the entire WNBA under a legal microscope.
The Wall Street Journal in this article is calling, or at least saying out loud, that maybe Caitlin Clark's civil rights are actually being violated. Is her right to a peaceful workplace, a non-hostile work environment, are those rights being violated by the WNBA?
The article highlights what many have seen but few have dared to say. Caitlin Clark is doing for the WNBA what Michael Jordan once did for the NBA. Viewership is up 366%. App engagement has skyrocketed 613%. And merchandise sales have surged 601%. These aren't minor boosts. They're game-changing numbers that have pulled the league back from the edge of irrelevance. And yet, instead of protecting their biggest asset, the WNBA has treated Clark like a problem to be managed, not a star to be celebrated.
Hey! And at the very least, there's a portion of this that says maybe WNBA leadership should at least have to go sit in front of some people and answer some very uncomfortable questions. Lord knows I would love to see that. Because Kathy Engelberg and Adam Silver, it seems to be nothing to see here. Please move along. Now, I've seen a lot of fans just come out and say, hey, they're assaulting her, it's battery, yada, yada, yada.
It's like your family winning the lottery and then resenting the attention it brings. It makes no sense, unless there's something deeper, something more troubling, happening beneath the surface.
Now, it talks about the fact that Caitlin Clark has basically done for the WNBA what Michael Jordan did for the NBA, right? Instead of protecting its transformative star, the league's leadership ignores the relentless targeting of Miss Clark, treating its greatest asset.
Here's where the legal stakes get real. The article reveals Clark has taken 17% of all flagrant fouls in the league. ***** the rate of other players. That's not random. That's a clear pattern. And when you've got hard data showing disproportionate treatment, civil rights lawyers pay attention. Because that's exactly the kind of evidence that can turn accusations into serious, courtroom-level discrimination cases.
I also blow up on the internet because I fought someone. So
Just so sick.
honestly, it is funny. It is funny because
For good reason.
yeah. Well,
Wasn't she?
yeah. Let me just tell people the story real quick because I
Okay,
don't
let's
think I've
go.
gotten to really tell my point of view of things.
Yeah.
Is like you have seen players in our league try to like toughen up Caitlyn or CC for even when I wasn't on her team. Like I know the talks that Phoenix had in the locker room of like, no, we're gonna prove her, we're gonna show her what the W really is. You know what I mean? And like I get it to a certain extent, and like every rookie into the league, that's how you're gonna treat them. But
Right.
there's just more for her. So it's her second year, and like now being on her team and like seeing it, I'm like, what are people doing? Like actually, it's just too much, and
Yeah.
like it's just I'm over. And if I'm saying it's too much, then it's probably too.
Sophie Cunningham, a forward for the Phoenix Mercury, didn't mince words. She said flat out, "The star player of the league is not being protected." That's not just noise from a fanbase or an overzealous commentator. That's a professional athlete, someone who competes against Caitlin Clark, openly criticizing the WNBA for failing to safeguard its biggest star. When your opponents are calling out the double standard, that says more than any press release ever could. Even Clark herself has spoken up. She's not making wild accusations or demanding special privileges. In her own words, "Everybody is physical with me. They get away with things others don't." That's a calm, measured way of saying what many fans and analysts are already thinking. The officiating has failed her. And the consequences go beyond just bruises. Clark has already missed 10 games, including the All-Star game, due to injuries. And when she wasn't on the court, the All-Star game's ratings plunged 55%. That's not just a coincidence. That's hard proof of her value to the league. And when injuries caused by overlooked fouls are keeping your most bankable star off the floor, while costing the league millions, it starts to look a lot like negligence. Then there's the racial angle. Asia Wilson recently pointed out that race plays a role in how Clark is treated. That changes everything. Under federal civil rights law, you don't need to prove intentional racism to trigger legal action. If there's a pattern of disparate treatment that appears racially motivated, that alone is enough to bring federal scrutiny. The article even cites real legal precedent, like Harris versus Forklift Systems from 1993, which defined a hostile work environment as behavior that's severe or pervasive, enough to alter the conditions of employment. The author argues Clark's situation fits that definition. They also reference Texas Department of Community Affairs versus Burdine from 1981, which clarified that victims don't have to prove intent, just a pattern of unequal treatment. At that point, the burden shifts to the WNBA to justify its actions. And that's no longer sports commentary. That's a legal blueprint for a civil rights case. When Sheila Johnson, owner of the Washington Mystics, publicly questioned whether Caitlin Clark deserved to be Times Athlete of the Year, it struck a nerve. ESPN legend Dick Vitale called it out for what it was, pure jealousy. But beyond the pettiness, there's a deeper issue here, a legal one. When a team owner makes those kinds of dismissive, public comments about the league's biggest star, it could actually be used as evidence of league-wide hostility in a civil rights case. And that's not opinion, that's legal strategy. Then there's the Olympic snub. Despite being arguably the most popular and impactful player in women's basketball, Clark was left off Team USA's roster. When taken on its own, you could dismiss it as a coaching decision. But when you combine it with the public criticisms, the uncalled fouls, the injuries, and the lack of league protection, it starts to form a clear pattern. And that pattern starts to resemble retaliation or exclusion, both of which are red flags in any discrimination case. Now, enter the political pressure. Senator Jim Banks has already fired off a letter to WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert demanding answers about how Clark has been treated. And once Congress starts sniffing around a league's internal practices, things rarely end quietly. The article even suggests that Congress should hold formal hearings to question WNBA leadership under oath. Imagine Kathy Engelbert, and maybe even Adam Silver, being grilled on national television, forced to explain why the league's top attraction has been treated like a punching bag. That's not the kind of spotlight any sports league wants. It gets more serious with the Labor Department's involvement. Workplace safety falls squarely under federal jurisdiction. If the Department of Labor finds that the WNBA failed to provide Clark with a safe working environment, that's not just bad PR, it's a violation of federal law. And if the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division joins in, it means the government sees systemic discrimination at play. That kind of scrutiny doesn't just result in policy tweaks, it brings lawsuits, fines, and sweeping changes. But the real bombshell is the antitrust threat. Pro sports leagues, including the WNBA, operate under special legal protections that allow them to function like monopolies. If Congress were to reconsider or revoke those exemptions because of how the WNBA treated Clark, it could fundamentally alter how the entire league operates, from broadcasting rights to revenue sharing. That's the nuclear option, and the article makes it clear, if the WNBA doesn't change course, that option could be on the table. What makes this timing so explosive is what's happening on the court. Since Clark's recent injury, the Indiana Fever have gone on a winning streak, and the level of physical play has noticeably decreased. It's like a real-time experiment showing just how much extra contact Clark absorbs compared to her teammates. And here's the kicker, not a single player has been suspended for flagrantly fouling her, despite a well-documented pattern of aggressive targeting. That kind of selective enforcement is a smoking gun in civil rights law. When the same conduct is punished differently based on who the victim is, that's disparate treatment, and it's a cornerstone of any successful discrimination claim. Just look at the Marina Mabrey incident. That wasn't basketball. It was a blindside hit that easily could have resulted in serious injury. In almost any other setting, it would be called assault. But in the WNBA? It was written off as just another hard foul. Then there's the DJ Carrington play, another dangerous moment where Clark came inches away from a career-altering injury. The article doesn't exaggerate when it says she's one flagrant foul away from a catastrophic outcome. We've seen the plays. We know the risk. And that's what makes the Wall Street Journal's involvement so significant. This isn't a sports tabloid pushing a narrative. This is a mainstream business outlet, one with credibility, legal knowledge, and national reach. When they start talking about civil rights violations in professional sports, it signals that this story has outgrown the world of basketball. Because the truth is simple, when Caitlin Clark plays, people watch. When she doesn't, they don't. And how the WNBA chooses to handle that reality may very well define the league's future. For a league that has struggled for decades with relevance and financial stability, you'd think protecting your biggest star would be a no-brainer. But in the WNBA's case, the exact opposite is happening. Caitlin Clark isn't just a standout athlete, she's the economic engine the league has always dreamed of. A 601% spike in merchandise sales didn't just happen. That's direct revenue, money flowing in because fans want to be part of what Clark represents. She's not just bringing attention, she's bringing in paying customers. And yet, the league's reluctance to protect her makes absolutely no sense, unless there's something deeper going on. Look at the data. App engagement has soared over 600%. That's not just casual interest. That's real-time, high-level fan engagement. People aren't just tuning in, they're following the league, checking updates, buying in. That kind of loyalty is gold for sponsors. It's the foundation of a sustainable future. But instead of nurturing that growth, the WNBA seems to be treating Clark like a problem, a disruptive force rather than a generational asset. It's like winning the lottery and then complaining that the money is too much of a hassle. The logic just doesn't add up, unless there's something beneath the surface. That's why the article's suggestion that federal agencies should investigate the league's internal communications is so dangerous for the WNBA. In discrimination cases, email discovery often reveals everything: conversations, jokes, offhand remarks that expose intentional bias. If there are internal messages among league officials discussing Clark's treatment in a way that suggests retaliation or resentment, that could be devastating in court. The piece draws a sharp parallel to Title IX enforcement. When the federal government issued warnings to over 60 colleges for gender discrimination in athletics, it sent shockwaves through the NCAA. A similar move against the WNBA, A professional league would be even more visible and carry even greater consequences. Then there's the antitrust angle, which might be the league's biggest nightmare. Sports leagues operate under special legal protections that allow them to function as monopolies. Remove those protections, and suddenly, the WNBA is subject to the same laws and vulnerabilities as any regular business. No more sweetheart deals. No more centralized control. Congress reconsidering those privileges would be a seismic threat, and given Clark's popularity and the growing pile of evidence, this could quickly become a bipartisan issue. Politicians love to stand up for civil rights, especially when the public is watching. And the public is watching. In real time. We're seeing games officiated one way when Clark plays, and differently when she doesn't. The level of physicality drops noticeably when she's off the court. That's contemporaneous evidence, the kind of proof legal teams dream of. It's not just theory, it's a live experiment in bias playing out on national television. Combine that with 0 suspensions for the multiple flagrant fouls Clark has endured, and the case for disparate treatment becomes hard to deny. The article's final warning, that this could get very ugly, very fast, isn't just speculation. We're looking at the real possibility of federal investigations, congressional hearings, and high-stakes discrimination lawsuits, all centered around the WNBA's biggest star. That's not just bad press. That's an existential threat to the league's future. What makes this all even more significant is the shift in narrative. This isn't just a sports story anymore. It's a legal and civil rights story. Clark's journey has become a lens through which broader issues are being examined: workplace safety, discrimination, institutional bias. And it's not just fans raising the alarm. When a prestigious business outlet like the Wall Street Journal publishes a piece suggesting federal law may have been violated, it instantly changes the conversation. This isn't about opinions anymore. This is about consequences. The Wall Street Journal didn't just drop an article, they dropped a bomb. And the WNBA should be paying very close attention. So what happens now? Could this be the beginning of a legal reckoning? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this story is far from over.